Thank you very much for coming to the session today. End of the day, it's been a really good learning for us. A lot of great sessions, a lot of great presentations. We're here to talk about best practices, a lot of focus on mobile. And Adobe's perspective here is really coming together. You got folks from the Creative Cloud side, you got folks from the Digital Cloud side, Digital Experience Cloud. And we're going to be talking about Lightroom specifically, but bringing together a lot of focus within topics, and I think a lot of the really good discussions and conversations today around mobile and how we're activating a lot of our best practices in Lightroom for the Creative Cloud side. I'm Senior Product Marketing Manager for Customer Journey Management, and Kelly Mullins is with us as well. Kelly leads product, and he's on the growth team for Creative Cloud. Going to talk a lot about Lightroom, what we're doing there in terms of some of the segments and audiences through our app. But I wanted to start out just giving an agenda here. We're going to cover a little bit of the research that we've done recently, talking about consumers' side expectations with marketers, which I think is really interesting. A lot of conversations today has really been kind of at the practitioner level, but what are we seeing on the opposite side in terms of consumers and their expectations? Growth challenges, a lot of the similar topics that you've seen today, but a little bit of a spin again on the consumer side, meeting that with marketing teams and what we're seeing in terms of best practices for growth. Lightroom, and then we'll have questions. So starting this off, the state of the market and consumer. There's a divide that we're seeing in our research in terms of expectations that we're having in terms of the practitioner on the marketing side and what consumers are expecting. And this misalignment, I think, is a really interesting point where you have a lot of teams saying, I know that we're doing a really good job in terms of our user experience, we're sending the right number of messages, and we rate ourselves pretty high in terms of customer experience or personalization. On the other side, consumer state, a lot of messages, a lot of ignoring emails, trying to get a sense of what cross-channel means to the consumer. One aspect here is the opportunity, again, for mobile, though, being text, SMS, push, in-app, where we're seeing more attention from the consumer side. They're saying we're less likely to not be interested and not be engaged from a mobile perspective. The other mention here is really a lot of conversations today has been, focus on engagement, but also on real-time intelligence, personalization, and Adobe's really pushing this to the limits because we're very content heavy. We see this being activated within some of our use cases and especially within our apps, but use examples of where that personalization comes from in a state. A lot of the intelligence and the intelligent optimization side of how we're activating the mobile app is very interesting. And that's when you get into contextual-based behaviors, what we're running from different models to understand those intents and those actions within the app. But these are just a few examples of where we're seeing personalizations shine through from a mobile app perspective. Brands, are we doing a good job at this? What's the number? The number you can say of all these moments coming together from an engagement standpoint. It's hard. Personalization is challenging. Making it easy for brands to understand how they can activate dynamic content, how they can leverage some of this data to power those intelligent decisioning and optimization within the mobile app. And then personalization across channels, again, huge area of opportunity that we're seeing in mobile. So we're really focused on bringing this together, having this, the consumer meet the marketer, and our research is showing us there's still a lot of room to improve, understand this, do better, and have a really good grip on the intelligent optimization and personalization side when we think about engagement. There's a reason, and a lot of focus on the engagement side, there's a reason Netflix just recently announced that they're not going to report on their quarterly numbers on just subscribers, right? They're optimizing for engagement and time spent in app. And I think there's a huge shift right now in the market on focus within personalized engagement and how you do that at scale. Last one here is just the impact. Talked a little bit about personalization and what that means for the consumer, but also across a lot of the ROI and the reasons why we're seeing a lot of these optimization success metrics based off engagement. There's a huge potential to get this right and to understand what the value on the table is for you as a director of product, engineering team, data engineering team, and of course the practitioner lifecycle marketers. They're all coming together here and they're understanding the value and the ROI. A little bit on the growth challenges. Adobe's story here, we see a lot of this convergence, right, from a brand-initiated moments, consumer and customer-initiated engagement. When you think about bringing together inbound and outbound on one single platform, you get a lot of that today in terms of the storytelling aspect here. The ways that we're seeing different use cases from a brand-initiated moment is tough. You have a lot of opportunity to understand decisioning aspects across these different channels, those use cases in real time. Simplifying that, giving more control and data to the consumer and the practitioner is important. And then from a consumer-initiated moments, the biggest thing here that we're seeing is context. This context gap, as we call it. Having a unified way of bringing together these data points to understand these differences in how to meet consumers in the moment. And we talk about moments that matter. It's all tied back to mobile app engagement and the focus on mobile, which is what we're talking about today. So when we think about this in the context of some of the use cases we'll get into at Lightroom, we know that there's a churn and a lot of focus on retention. Acquisition is tough. Getting beyond the install for a mobile application, in what you're doing inside the product, outside the product, bringing offline and online data together, it's really driving what we see as the three kind of pillars on this topic today. Orchestration, looking at journey orchestration and what that means from an omnichannel perspective, personalizing mobile-first engagement and getting mobile right, and then all the decisioning and intelligent optimization that you can really build in and have an insight into future state when you're thinking about decisioning on what channel within a journey or what optimization model or decisioning model you would want to drive incremental successes to whatever your optimization metrics are. So we'll get into some examples, but that's really kind of the focus for Adobe today, and we're going to get into examples with Lightroom. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelly.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Kelly Mullins, and I'm actually relatively new to Adobe. I've been managing the Lightroom's in-app messaging and push notification system for all of like 3 months. But I go way back in mobile. I started at Branch in like almost exactly 10 years ago. So back in the Stone Age before ATT was around, or back when things were easy. So I've kind of seen all of mobile app acquisition and engagement and retention for a long time. So this is not my first time looking at all this. So with Lightroom, it's a unique app. We like to think of it as one of the leading photo editing apps, but it's really designed to have a subscription base, and it's designed for users of all different types of photography backgrounds. You know, Adobe has a lot of really technical apps, Photoshop on up, but Lightroom is really a consumer-facing app, and it's designed for pros all the way down to enthusiastic hobbyists. And if you want to scan that code, that would be great, because then I can tell my finance people that we got some users out of this. So I'll pause here. That'd be great. So again, this is just some sample screenshot. So how do we get started on Journey Optimizer? You know, for Lightroom, you know, we're like a lot of other apps. You know, we have to really focus hard on user acquisition, getting people in. But once we get them in, we really want to help increase their knowledge of how to take great photographs and how to use the apps themselves. So we wanted to think about, getting users aware of certain features, how to help them learn how to use the app itself. But we also wanted to think about how do we target the right message to the right audience. As I said, Lightroom's got everybody from pro photographers to people who just want to doctor their vacation photographs. So we really think about how do we get the right message to the right person at the right time. And then finally, how do we encourage engagement? How do we keep people integrated with the app? So when we think about the user life cycle, we kind of think about it, this is going to be like pretty much everybody's subscriber base. It's going to be discovery, new user acquisition, some free features, then show them the paywall. Hopefully they subscribe at that point, right? Get them engaged, paid engagement. That's really kind of how we think about it. But when we think about it through AJO and kind of the ways we're trying to think about how to get people integrated, we want to start to think about when somebody comes in, first-time user, how do we use Journey Optimizer to show them the right type of message? Again, that's what we think about kind of the piece of this. And you'll hear me talk a lot about audiences because that's a huge focus for us. Then we get down to premium engagement, premium features, user retention. At each step along the way, we use Journey Optimizer to deliver different messages to different people. So that we're trying to make sure that we don't overwhelm paid users, but we're giving free users the right type of information that they need. So again, here's some of our use cases for this and the way we think about it. You'll hear me talk a ton about feature awareness, engagement by audiences. Again, we use the Adobe's experience platform to build all the audiences. And I'll talk some more about how easy that is. But when I think about best practices for what we do, that's a huge feature. And I've heard a lot of people today talk about not overwhelming users with too many messages, and I agree with that. But the way we do that on our end is we set up a lot of different campaigns, and then we target people really specifically, hopefully giving them the right information that they need. So again, that's something that we think about a lot. And then community engagement. Lightroom's not a social app, but it has a huge community of people, and they get on Reddit or they get on different forums, and we really want to encourage those interactions. Influencers are some of the best sources of downloads for us, for example. So we really focus on that side of things as well. So with Journey Optimizer, it's a really simple way to set up all of our campaigns. Typically, we'll go in and just set up a quick and easy, like, key performance metrics, just set up clicks. That's what we're looking for. Our data scientists will, on the back end, they do all the revenue analysis to see what's working and what's not working. So we'll work through what those pieces look like. But it's pretty straightforward how we set up those campaigns. The targeting the audience. This is a key thing for us. With AJO, it's really just drag and drop. When I go in to build an audience, it's give me everybody who is, for example, free user from these certain countries who've opened the app once in the past month. That's kind of how I think about my audience. Or I might do that by paid users, and I'll build separate campaigns by audience segment for each time I do that. So that's really something that we're really focused on in that context. And AJO lets us do that fairly easily. That's a big feature for us as well. And then it's really, once I come up and I start the campaign, set those up. One thing I will say, and I'll kind of push over here to the editing, we have templates that we use. We also do some custom editing inside of the HTML as well. We kind of, that way, but again, everything we do is customized. We do a lot of, in terms of localization. So we're not only editing the text, so it's localized by language, but we also specialize, we take out the tech images. We recently ran a campaign that was just focused on Indonesia. It had some graphics which were specific to that country. It way outperformed anything else we'd ever done in that country. So it really encouraged us. I think everything we do going forward is really going to be localized very heavily. And we're really focused on making that happen. So that's something that we're really leaning into. And I think that's a great best practice for whatever platform that you're using, is to make sure that you're localizing all of your campaigns. After that, test, preview, I think you've seen from some of the other presentations, we do this piece of it. It's really important for us. We also, again, one thing I will say is that it does take a big team. I've got QE engineers that I work with on all these campaigns. So after I run it through, they also test it on our behalf. I think another best practice here would be don't underestimate the amount of time it might take to get your campaign up and running. Again, whatever platform that you're using, give yourself plenty of time to go in and set up those campaigns correctly. And then it's just simply, publish and activate. So one thing I'll point out here is that we recently launched a big campaign for Lightroom. We just launched a new feature, Generative Remove. To using some of the AI that you probably heard Adobe is using. This is a smaller instantiation of that, but it's actually really cool. But we ran a campaign that was phased, multi-touch, localized rollout across multiple regions. We did a push notification on the day of launch. They got millions of clicks, really high performance of people trying to click through, updating, because we needed people to update the app. Then we also did in-app messages that went out day 3, day 7, day 10. Again, we also localized each of those, and I ran tests against different audiences to see which ones worked the best. And then again, success was measured by click-through rates, and then completion of this enhanced featured deep link. What happened on the click was that it went to this experience right here, and this was available to anybody, free or paid. And what we wanted to showcase here, and again, I'll go ahead and start this. This is a screen recording of me actually doing the experience. So again, you click to this. Now, this is me rubbing my fat finger over that guy trying to remove this. This was an actual image. And then do it, hit connect to cloud, and voila, that is gone, right? So, so that was, we had hugely successful, not just because of all the clever in-app messages, but that we wanted to get that experience in front of people, and that's what really has worked. So that's something that we're doing. Again, the things we learned about that was, again, translating the broader array of languages. This piece here, the long-time subscribers but infrequent users, I'm only focused on in-app messaging and the people who are already in the app. So if somebody's kind of gotten off the habit of using Lightroom, I can't reach them. But what we do want to create is when those people do come back, trigger the right message to them so they see a cool experience like this, or they see something that gets their attention so that they can really focus on what we're trying to do. And then finally is, name of the game is new users, new installs, incremental pieces. And again, I'm part of a team. We use all the channels, email, paid media, influencers to kind of help drive this experience. And all that's kind of coordinated through AJO. So we work on those pieces extensively. I also administer the branch instance at Adobe. So we also use branch as our attribution partner. So all that funnels into our data pipeline. Then we use that to do all the measurement and attribution across each of those pieces. Audiences. I've talked a lot about this. I can't emphasize this enough as we think about just sort of best practices for reaching people. Now that it's so hard to get users in because we've lost so much signal because of AT&T prompt, which Adobe doesn't even show because we don't want to get in the way of our users. So we're a little bit blind in terms of the acquisition. So once I get somebody in, I've got to make sure that I engage them correctly. So then I'm using lots of features like this. So new users are going to see something like this, which is basically, here's an example of what the app can do. Begin now, and that takes them to that experience that I just showed. Or for trialists, maybe I know people who are around, they're using this, and then you can show how you can quickly adapt some of the images in the photography. But again, we pop these messages. I should also say we show these at app open, but we also can trigger these off of feature usage. So we don't want to get in the way of a user. They're coming in and they're trying to do, so we know they show up, they've got a project. So maybe they're coming in, they're exiting the edit loop. That's when I'll trigger something to say, by the way, did you know you could also do this? So we're thinking a lot about how do we trigger the messages at the right person at the right time. And then, finally, it's the paid users. These are more sophisticated features for users that if we know that if I've got an audience of people who are been with us for X number of months, they're in the app 10 times a month, then I'll show them something that's like, hey, did you know you could do this piece, something cool like this. So again, those are messages that are triggered off the feature usage at, maybe they're at a different stage of using the app itself. And then lastly, this is kind of an example of some of the feature nurturing we do. This is kind of what's on the whiteboard in my office, but it's sort of thinking through, okay, we've got users, first app launch, have they tried this feature before? If no, then hey, I'm gonna show them, get ready for the solar eclipse. This was something we did for the solar eclipse, and we had a community of users. Somebody had been said, this is how you set up your presets in Lightroom to take a really good shot of the solar eclipse. So we wanted to say, hey, if you click here, see how other people have done this. So it was a message to trigger them, get them using it. If they had tried it, then it's going to be, hey, by the way, we still have this feature, push notification. Try to get them back into the app. And then it's sort of this life cycle of thinking about how to keep users either engaged, retain them, making sure that we're, again, showing the right messages to the right person at the right time. So that's kind of how we think about everything in this process. And again, that's it. Again, Lightroom Mobile QR code.
Yeah, Kelly was talking about the Adobe Journey Optimizer product here. So both QR codes. We definitely have time for questions. Are there any to start for the Q&A?